Kellen Moore and the Saints are expected to hire Doug Nussmeier as the offensive coordinator. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all happening live, really. We just got a report that the deal is being finalized, so it's happening. So Douglas Nussmeier will be the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints under Kellen Moore. There was a bunch of other hires made recently on the offensive staff that we'll go over today, kind of talk through some of that and what it means for the Saints moving forward. But it's all coming together offensively. And I'll tell you this, the overall context, the overall thing that you need to know is there's going to be some coaching done, all right? The Saints are tooling up one hell of a staff. It's going to be a lot of coaching, and it's a lot of young guys. Like, this is a staff. Every day I get more invested and I get more excited and I get more all in with this team and the staff and Kellen Moore and what he has going on here. And today is no different. I'm excited. I'm thrilled with some of the names we're going to talk about. So let's get right into it. Boot Crew Media is the backdrop. Let's go.
It hasn't been finalized yet, but Kellen Moore is getting very close to hiring his offensive coordinator for the 2025 season. Let's talk about it right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
The shoulder shake.
What is up? Truthfully, when you are the last team hiring and you're putting together your crew, there's a good chance that, some of the hires aren't going to be great. And Kellen Moore,
it's a bit of a misnomer, okay? Because if, you would assume a lot of the people who you fill your staff with are tied to you in a way, so they're all kind of interdependent of each other. So, that's not necessarily, it sounds right, but it's not always the case.
a year from now could probably reassess with a loaded crop of coaches at his disposal and make some changes. And I kind of believe that's where we'll be heading in a year from now, regardless of what the Saints record is. I think Kellen Moore will have an opportunity to really improve his staff next year. Obviously, at this point, you don't have as many options. One option that Kellen Moore has absolutely had from the rip is bringing in Doug Nussmeier. And although it hasn't been confirmed yet, it seems like he is by far and away the favorite to be the Saints offensive coordinator. It sounds like a deal will get done this week. And for me,
yeah, I mean, when you hear like that deals are being finalized or whatever, you can go ahead and chalk it up that it's done. So Doug Nussmeier will be the OC.
I think bringing in Doug Nussmeier is the type of move that, as a Saints fan, I don't see how you can really dislike it at all. The history that him and Kellen Moore have had the last couple of seasons, whether it's with the Cowboys, the Chargers, or the Eagles, is pretty impressive, and they've worked.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this, Kellen is the offensive coordinator for all intents and purposes. He is the one calling the plays. He is designing the offense. So who the OC is doesn't really matter. As long as they can communicate and understand Kellen's system. So that's exactly what Doug Nussmeier can do. Doug Nussmeier has been with Kellen, so he certainly understands it. He certainly can communicate with him, and that works. As far as what he will be doing day in, day out, it'll be helping to facilitate and distribute Kellen's idea, Kellen's vision, and Kellen's entire, thought process of the offense to the rest of the team. But Kellen is the offensive coordinator. It's one of those situations where, Pete Carmichael, and this is a bad example because Pete Carmichael didn't even have his headset plugged in. Pete Carmichael was the offensive coordinator for Sean Payton, but Sean Payton was the offensive coordinator. Now, my God, I'm sure Doug Nussmeier has a little bit more football sense than Pete Carmichael, but
With really good quarterbacks in Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, now Jalen Hurts. And I think being able to bring that to New Orleans when one of the main question marks for this team is quarterback play and who's going to be the quarterback, to have two guys that know how to uplift that position is a huge, huge advantage for the Saints. So I think bring in Doug Nussmeier. Yeah,
Nussmeier played quarterback for the Saints, if you're familiar with him in that sense. But I agree. The fact that you got these guys who they've seen multiple quarterbacks, multiple successful quarterbacks, different styles, whatever, lifted all of them up, and now you bring both of them to the Saints team where that's needed, whether it's for Rattler, Carr, or the next franchise quarterback. It's good to have those quarterback whisperers on the staff.
Myers a plus. I think adding more talent from that Eagles staff is obviously a huge benefit to the Saints. We saw how good that coaching staff was this season with them winning a Super Bowl.
And we'll talk about another member of the Eagles staff who is joining Kellen.
And I think for Doug, I think it's a really good spot for him, right? You continue to climb up the ladder. Now you'll get to be the OC, albeit Kellen Moore will call plays. But that collaboration between Doug Nussmeier and Kellen Moore is paramount for New Orleans. And to keep that going is great. And look, like I said, there's going to be moments where I think Kellen Moore is probably going to consider making staff changes next offseason, and I anticipate that he will. But I don't think it's going to be this one. I think this is one of those hires that when you bring in Kellen Moore, you feel pretty good about him being a package deal with Doug Nussmeier.
Yeah.
And then the focus shifts over to who the heck will the quarterback be, and we'll see. But it seems like the Saints have their offensive coordinator. I'm more than okay with this hire. I think this is a really good move for the Saints. And I think it's going to make a lot of people start to speculate about who they may draft this year or next year, of course. But I really do like the move. It's not just him, though, this week that we've heard about with the Saints and their staff. There's a couple other moves.
Real quick, Nussmeier is 54 years old. And I think he's the oldest, actually, in this crop of coaches that Kellen's hired.
Moves that they've made. So let's just rattle through them and talk about them real quick. Quarterbacks coach, Scott Tolzien, former.
Yep, Scott Tolzien, former NFL quarterback, sort of, kind of, back up, however you want to phrase it. But Tolzien is, I think, 37. So barely older than Kellen. Same age as Andy Dalton. Tolzien is the quarterback's coach, and again, another super young coach. That is something that you will see over and over and over. The average age for these guys, I mean, honestly, the average age might not be 45 years old. Like, if you averaged out the entire coaching staff, we keep preaching innovative, we keep preaching young, whatever. We got it in spades. I mean, more than likely, I don't know the actual numbers or whatever, but I would assume that the Saints this year will have the youngest coaching staff in NFL history. And I mean, you want fresh ideas, you want innovation, you want analytically driven, you want forward thinking. That's exactly what these guys are doing. So, and I was on the radio today with my guy, Kevin Foote, and he asked if I was worried about the youth. I was worried about that they were so young. And I said no, but I don't blame someone for seeing 37, 36, 40, 41, whatever, and getting concerned. But remember this. Yes, they are young, but they have a tremendous amount of experience. Kellen Moore is a great example. 36 years old, youngest head coach in the NFL. He has been an offensive coordinator since 2019. He has had 3 different stops. He has won a Super Bowl. So I'm not as concerned with the age thing because of the experience that these guys have. So if you are worried about, because I'm going to say it a lot, if you are worried about a very young coaching staff, just remember they are very, very experienced for their age.
Packer, former Colt, former Mike McCarthy guy. He is now in New Orleans working with Kellen Moore, and I really like this move. I actually thought Scott Tolzien was going to be the quarterback's coach for New Orleans with Mike McCarthy potentially as the head coach. So Kellen Moore, obviously head coach, still able to land this hire. He's, according to a lot of people, described as a up-and-coming coach who's rising up the ranks, really, really good college quarterback. Obviously, NFL career-wise didn't pan out that well, but he's also been kind of climbing up, and I think this is a nice hire for the Saints.
These are the guys that absolutely could rotate. So, like if the Saints' offense is good and the quarterback play is good, Tolzien could quickly go from being quarterback's coach to an OC somewhere. So that's the part of the staff that if there is going to be turnover, it'll be in those kind of positions.
Some potential there for Scott Tolzien. So I'm very pleased with that one. We talked about it earlier this week. They're retaining Keith Williams at wide receiver coach. They're actually bringing back.
Keith Williams is a guy who everyone loves. So that was reported last week. That's not really part of this crop, but still rounds out the offensive staff.
Back Joel Thomas to coach the running backs, which I think.
Joel Thomas was running back coach with New Orleans. He left, went to the Giants, and he's back.
He's kind of interesting.
He's 50, so he's not as old as Nussmeier, but still relatively young.
Interesting. Fascinating to figure out what the reason might have been that kind of brought him back to New Orleans, because you left New Orleans for a reason. What's the reason bringing you in? I'm curious to see. We'll see if that reunion ends up paying dividends for the Saints. Like we mentioned before, Brendan Nugent coaching the O-line. For the tight end group, we got Chase Hazlitt, so some family ties there. And then O-line assistant still Jari Evans. Hopefully Jari Evans can continue to work his way up the ladder. Obviously, us Saints fans love him dearly. So in terms of offensive staff, you're just waiting for the OC hire to be official, but Kellen Moore is pretty much put together.
All right, there's one more I wanted to bring up. T.J. Paganetti. All right, so T.J. Paganetti, I don't know if it's – I know that proper way to say it, right, is Paganet. I know like spaghetti, you don't say the vowel at the end. That's mozzarella, right? That's just a little bit of, I'm just kind of Duolingo type situation here or whatever. But so Paganetti was with Kellen with the Eagles. So another member of the Philadelphia Eagles staff is joining Kellen. So it's Kellen, Nussmeier, Paganetti. Okay. Paganetti will be the running backs coach and the assistant offensive line coach. That's what he was with Philadelphia. We are assuming that he's being brought in to run the running game. Okay. Now think about this. Kellen Moore, what does he do best? What is his cup of tea? What is his main thing? His main thing? Passing game. We all know that. He has got that down, okay? He's got Tolzien, got Nussmeier, got him. He owns up the passing game. So he brings in Paganetti to shore up the running game. This is the kind of stuff that I love. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I love right here, where Kellen knows what's my weak point, right? He knows, like, what do I need help in? The running game, okay? Where was I just now that was super, super successful in the running game? Philadelphia. So bringing Paganetti with him, fantastic. And that's the kind of stuff that you love to see. So let me see if I can find Paganetti's age. It's 35. 35 years old. Okay, you can take a look at his resume here. Been with the Eagles since 2017. Long stint with the Eagles. Quality control, assistant offensive line coach, assistant running backs coach, offensive quality control, run game specialist, assistant tight ends coach, run game specialist, assistant offensive line coach, two-time Super Bowl champion, one with Peterson and one with Sirianni. So big hire. I mean, you love to see as much of that Eagles staff come with Kellen Moore, especially when it comes to bolstering the running game. I mean, the Eagles had arguably one of the best running games we've seen in the last couple of decades. So was that strictly because of Paganetti? No. But, Saquon Barkley has a lot to do with that. But Paganetti certainly has something in his bag of tricks that can go from Philly to New Orleans. So, I mean, this is the brain trust. And again, Paganetti, 35. Kellen, 36. Tolzien, 37. We got 50. We got 54. I mean, it is a young staff. 41 if Brandon Staley is the DC. Now, you throw that in there, you're talking about, that average is insanely young. It's insanely young. It's a lot of experience, a lot of success. This is fantastic. So it's a new day, man. Like, it is a new day in New Orleans. And we keep saying this, but whatever old school identity, we talked about Taysom Hill in a video this week. And, yeah, we love Taysom Hill. Love what he had to do with the Saints. But you look at Taysom Hill and you look at, 35 years old. You look at big-time contract. You look at injured. You look at Sean Payton was trying to bring him along, and then he was part of the Pete Carmichael thing, and then Kubiak. That doesn't really jive with what I'm saying right now, right? It doesn't really jive with Kellen Moore, Tolzien, all these young guys, Nussmeier, and what was his name, Paglietti? I'm already mixing it up. I've said Paganetti. Okay, I've said it so many times in so many different ways, I'm already messing it up. I just forgot about it again. Paganetti. So, it doesn't jive with all that. So I keep harping on this, but it is a new era. And it is a whole new vision for the Saints. It's a whole new vision for the roster. It's a whole new vision for who we're drafting, what they can do, what we want. So all of this retread, that's one thing I love about this, is that, when Mike McCarthy was, and my boy Rex is not going to like this because I'm talking bad about McCarthy again, but when McCarthy was being talked about as the head coach, I was really against that because I did not want a retread. I did not want old ideas. I did not want failed ideas. I wanted new. And we are getting more new than I could have ever imagined. I'll tell you this. We are going to be drafting differently than we've ever drafted. We're going to be calling plays differently. We're going to be assessing players differently. We're going to be grading out players differently. We're going to be approaching the game differently. We're going to be game planning differently. Everything is going to be different because of this youth, because of this experience, because of the recent success they've all had. I mean, you're getting, like, it's awesome that our head coach / offensive play caller was just in the Super Bowl where he won. But then you triple that and say, well, also our running game specialist and our assistant offensive line coach and our offensive coordinator and our, like, all of that. Oh yeah, they were all in the Super Bowl together last year. You know, like, all those things matter, and that cohesion matters. So I love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic news. You should be excited about it. I'm excited about it. Ladies and gentlemen, get on down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about all these hires, and I will see you in the next video.